How's it going, Mets and overall baseball fans? Welcome back to the channel. We got a big one for video number 2 on the day because it hasn't taken the Mets long to already start showing interest in other bats out there in the free agent market, as they've been currently linked to not 1, not 2, but 3 separate players, and that's what we'll be highlighting in today's video and deep diving overall. But before we get into it, all I ask is after you're new to the channel, make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. Thank you guys all so much for your endless support as always, folks. And of course, I have to let you all know that today's show is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is your #1 source for all your sports betting needs, so make sure you head over to betonline.ag using promo code Bleav at BLEAV. That way you get yourself a 50% off welcome bonus. BetOnline, it's where the games begin, and now folks, it's officially let the show begin, because as you see here from left to right, we have John Heyman, the New York Post, stating that yes, the Mets are showing interest in veteran outfielder Andrew McCutchen as a potential 4th outfielder fit. And then to the right, we have Joe DeMayo of SNY saying that yes, Andy Martino on Hot Stove for SNY earlier tonight said that the Mets are showing interest in not only Trey Mancini, but Adam Duvall too, along with having mutual interest in Zach Britton. Now, for those who don't know, we already did a video earlier today on Zach Britton, so make sure to check out that video if you haven't already, folks. But talking about these position players, starting with Andrew McCutchen, this is enticing for me. I think when you look at the available bats out there in the free agent market, there aren't a lot right now, but specifically 4th outfielder options, yeah, I really like Andrew McCutchen as a fit, honestly. Even at the age of 36, still put up a solid 2022 campaign and his one and only year in Milwaukee or so with, what, 16, 17 home runs, 69 RBIs, a 700 plus OPS, a 237 average, and 98 WRC plus, so he's still an average hitter. And looking at his advanced numbers for Baseball Savant, and 90 percentile in sprint speed, he's a speed demon still. Gives you that stealing base threat with 8 stolen bags this past year for Milwaukee, and potentially, as long as he stays healthy, could have a good amount of wheels for the Mets next year with the new rule in place that pitchers can only throw to first base twice, and then you're going to see guys have big jumps and big leads to go from first to second. That's going to benefit a guy like McCutchen, even at the age of 36 in the latter half of his career now, just like Starling Marte, for example. But when you look at his other numbers as well, walk rate really strong at 70 percentile, and another one that really stood out to me is overall his chase rate at 92 percentile. He has a great idea and command of that strike zone and can give you plenty pop. So yes, his numbers weren't great at all last year against left-handed pitching. In 2021, they were superb, however, at 300 average and 1,000 OPS. He's a career 300 average and north of 1,000 OPS hitter against lefties. The reason why I bring that up is because if the Mets are going to get a 4th outfielder, it makes sense for him to split some time with Mark Cannon on left, who doesn't play every day as is, and potentially some time at the DH spot. So McCutchen, whether the Mets say land him and another bat or just him alone as a 4th outfield option, I am by no means opposed to that fit, as he's a guy that isn't only a great overall player throughout his career during his time in Pittsburgh where he had his true peak, but someone who has a phenomenal clubhouse presence and brings further depth and more pop to this lineup that is desperately needed. Now getting on to Trey Mancini. Now he's the interesting one, because if the Mets have any potential of landing not 1 but 2 separate bats this offseason, it'll be because of Trey Mancini. He is not a guy that's in the competing realm of an Adam Duvall, Andrew McCutchen. The Mets would only land one of those two because they're both guys that can handle the outfield perfectly fine in left spring time with Canna. But Trey Mancini, while he can play the outfield, is he going to do it well? No, not at all. He's by far the worst defender amongst the 3 here. He's really just a first baseman slash a DH type guy. And this past season did put up a decent campaign, nothing crazy, 18 home runs, 63 RBIs, a 239 average, and a right around, just around 700 or so OPS. And nothing flashy there, splitting time with not only the Orioles, but then the World Series champs and the Houston Astros. And might I add, he was abysmal with the Astros. He didn't do much of anything for them, was not productive at all heading into postseason, had a very limited play. But Mancini is still someone that, again, I'm always in love with the idea of a fellow Paisan coming back to Queens, like the man on the wall behind me, but I'm also in favor of him rekindling that relationship that he had with Buck Showalter during their time in Baltimore, just like Zach Britton that we did a separate video on, as I mentioned already. Mancini adds further pop here. So again, if the Mets are just trying to get guys on short-term deals that are not going to be too expensive, the best bats still out there in the free agent market, and just try to get more pop, more depth to this lineup, Trey Mancini definitely helps. I mean, Mancini's a guy where I'd imagine, like, if he got picked up by the Braves, that would look like a phenomenal depth pickup down the road throughout the year, right? So Mancini, McCutchen, Duvall, those are all types of guys that will automatically make this team better, while maybe not drastic, will give them the further depth that they can need, as they will then hopefully have a deep run. And even though Mancini didn't have much of an impact, he did just win a World Series, so naturally having that experience is going to be nice to hopefully transfer over should he sign with a team like the Mets. Mets. And last but not least, we have easily the biggest wild card of the three, and that is veteran outfielder Adam Duvall. Now, what separates Adam Duvall from the other two hitters today? It's two things. It's one, his presence in the outfield. He's a far better defender than both McCutchen right now and Trey Mancini by far. In 2021, he had an 90th percentile, and that's above average. In 2022, had an 88th percentile. So Duvall, as long as he's healthy, is a guy that really can be a strong glove in left, center, or right. So mainly left field splitting time with Canna based on matchups. Canna isn't playing every day, so makes sense there. Canna is better against righties than he is lefties, and Duvall throughout his career historically is usually a pretty darn good hitter against lefties. But I'll get into why it's a little bit more construed than what I initially thought. But two, he's someone where not only with the outfield presence and just being so good, could even fill in for Marte when needed based on injuries or just he needs a day off, but it's the potential power with this swing and this bat. I mean, in 2021, splitting time with the Marlins and then the World Series champs in the Atlanta Braves, having that reunion there, had a monster year with 38 home runs, over 100 RBIs. This past year with the Braves, however, only 86 games played due to injury and included 12 home runs, 36 RBIs, a measly 213 average, a 276 OBP, a 401 slug. Not really looking that strong of numbers. When you look at Adam Duvall, he's so swing and miss. He's one of the bigger boppers in the game of baseball. His average exit velo is in the 90th plus percentile, has so much power in that swing, but when he's not raking and hitting that bad boy deep like 450 plus feet, he's swinging right in the dirt and heading back to the dugout. So he has a major flaw in his swing. Big holes there. That is not the Billy Epler or Steve Cohen way for guys that want guys with more, not only pop, but more so being able to get on base at a good clip. He doesn't do that. He swings and misses a lot, strikes out at an alarming rate, and also does not take any walks whatsoever. He's like Ahmad Rosario during his time with the Mets, if you think about that, right? Just all focused in that strike zone, and that's it. He's not taking any walks at all. But Duvall, again, that upside for a guy who, while he did miss half the season last year due to injury, how healthy can he be? That's a fair risk. But in a limited role as a fourth outfielder slash DH based on matchups, you can see how that's appealing and has that defensive upside and the upside to potentially be a 20 plus to 25 home run bat, and maybe even more depending on how he would be utilized by the Mets. Now, what gets interesting also is in 2022 against left-handed pitching at 800 to 840 or so OPS, really strong. 2021, his breakout year with the Marlins and then the Braves with 38 home runs, 100 plus RBIs, had a measly 550 or so OPS against left-handed pitching. So I don't know where that comes from, and I don't know how consistent he'll be matchup-wise against left-handed pitching for platoon reasons should he sign with the Mets, but he is someone that historically in his career has done fairly well against left-handed pitching, and I imagine that would still transfer over should he sign with the Mets in a limited role. But Mets fans, I want to know your thoughts in the comments below. How do you feel about these three bats? Which one out of the three do you personally like most and view as most realistic? Do you like the idea of potentially landing 2 out of 3 if it's at all possible? Mainly in the scenario where the Mets say don't do a trade, I would imagine this is where it could become more likely. Maybe a Mancini and one of Duvall or McCutchen. Anything's possible there, right? But whatever your thoughts are, make sure to drop them down below. And again, Mets fans, if you ended up enjoying this kind of Mets content and you want to see more great Mets content like this, don't hesitate from smashing that like and subscribe button. Thank you guys all so much in advance for your support once more, and I'll talk to you again real soon. Let's go Mets, baby. Peace out.